Initially, the action of the story takes place in a girl's dream. She realizes that the line of death is a blurred line between life and death. She once again sees in her dream some man and someone's ashes in front of him. Looking straight at him, she doesn't understand why he has such a heartbreaking look. After the man turns around, we see his weeping eyes, and the girl sees a lot of grief and horror in them. She just has to look at it all. In the dark night, a girl in her bed wakes up because of this dream. She realizes that she once again had this dream, which has not happened for a long time. She thought it was over, but apparently it is not so. She wonders if all the magic is gone, because the girl hasn't used it for a long time and probably lost the skill. It's morning, and a young guy comes into the girl's room. We find out that the girl's name is Sharon. The guy asks her if she's awake. The girl was surprised to see Pachan in her room, but the guy tells her to get up quickly, because the maid of honor said that the slaves should also gather in the inner palace. The girl is very surprised to hear the name of the maid of honor, because the last time she was seen 3 years ago. We also learn that about 10 years ago, the girl's homeland called Surso was occupied by the Baldec Empire. It's been 3 years since she and Pachan were captured and sold as slaves in the imperial palace. The protagonist and her boyfriend go to the meeting place. We learn that it's been a long time since a heretic slave has set foot in the palace. After they enter the room where they were ordered to gather, Pachan tells the girl that the place smells like horse manure. The same woman who hasn't been seen in 3 years says the reason they're all here is because His Majesty and the Emperor are returning to the palace. And we learn that the woman's name is Kesserin, the maid of honor. The woman informs that due to the king's return, he will need courtiers to accompany him. He will need advisors, maids for delicate matters, and even favors. All the gathered people are shocked. None of the men want to serve the emperor. One of them says that only a man who is a madman will serve this madman. Another mentions that it is like digging your grave, and the third thinks that they will go to war again. Only the girl and the guy seem not to be disturbed by this news. The protagonist asks why the slaves and servants were gathered together, and the guy tells her that it seems that the war is over. Not only does this emperor start a war, he kills servants and livestock every night. But we learn that His Majesty Emperor Julian has been married twice. But not even a month passed when the empresses died violently. There were even rumors that they fell by the hand of the emperor. From this description, we understand that the emperor is a sadist and some kind of tyrant. Seeing that no one wants to serve the emperor personally, the woman says that the volunteers will have some advantages. She mentions that serving His Majesty is honorable. That is why they will be given 100 taps a week. People are not delighted with such an offer from a woman, for the money does not outweigh their desire to live. The woman is outraged that no one wants to serve the emperor personally, and informs all the people that if there are no volunteers by tomorrow, they will be chosen at random. Pachan tells the protagonist that this meeting is a waste of time, and it will be hard to sleep early tonight because they have a lot of work to do. The girl looks a little disappointed. She doesn't understand why she can't stop thinking about the man in the dream, but Pachan wonders what's going on with her. But the girl asks the guy if he knows why there are such terrible rumors about His Majesty. The guy thinks about her question and doesn't know what to say to the girl. Sharon asks the guy if the emperor spent many years at war away from the palace. She also mentions that he is usually called a war hero. In her opinion, apparently there are not enough good rumors to dilute the bad ones, and that's why everyone is afraid of him. She asks the guy if he's really that crazy guy who kills everyone. The guy finally realizes what to say to the girl, asks her if it could be because of the witch's curse. The girl is obviously surprised by this question, and asks who could have cursed the emperor himself. The guy is surprised that the girl doesn't know about it, and asks if she's heard their colleagues talking about it. The girl naturally hasn't heard of anything like that. The guy starts telling her a story about it. It turns out 25 years ago there was a lady who was burned at the stake. That lady's name was Jalek, and she was a simple citizen of Baldeca. This woman stepped onto the battlefield with only faith in her country and the valor of a knight. She led a long war with Kritia to victory. By this act, the woman earned the trust and respect of all the inhabitants of the empire. But when the battle was over, this woman, after risking her life, paid too high a price to save her country. Then the rumor spread that the girl was a witch. In the end, the girl who saved her country, who was a knight, was tied to a pole. The angry mob shouted that they were going to kill the lecherous girl for her association with the devil. They started to light a fire. The voices that eulogized her as the only heroine of the empire were still audible. Their confidence was as thin as a sheet of paper. The emperor and empress were watching it all. The girl looks right at them and declares that her existence is a bone in the emperor's throat. She is very angry and says that he is a tyrant who has no place in this world. She emphasizes that burning her as a witch is the price of the girl's loyalty to the emperor. She cries out that her only sin is that she has fought for the Baldec Empire all her life, and her only sin is keeping her vow of knighthood to him. The emperor is surprised by the girl's words, but she keeps talking and asks what he did. As emperor, she emphasizes that he abandoned the people and fled the empire hoping to survive. The emperor is enraged by these words. From the girl's side, he orders to make more fire and smash that damned witch's whole face. The people are also very angry that she is defiling the emperor. The fire flares up even stronger and envelops the girl's whole body. She begins to burn alive, but the anger does not leave her, and she says that since she is a witch, according to many people, the emperor is cursed. The emperor, who is watching all this, rejoices at what she said and tells the people that this is an admission that the girl is a witch. The girl tells him that his skin will rot until the white bones are exposed and there will be no one left to serve and protect him. She looks very angry, and tears are visible in her eyes. She also says that the tyrant's child is growing in the mother's womb. The empress is surprised that this has affected her, but the witch says that his entire family will live in starvation and isolation like scorpions on land, and people blindly believing the nonsense that drips from his tongue. Is a loyal worker, with the cat of inhuman traitors. With her words are not animals who bring their newborns to the predator, and who put them on the altar of war like a toy. Also, still addressing people, the girl says that their lives are not worth a single word, and the stones that they throw, and the fire that I do not ignite, and the screaming that they make, according to her, all this will not change anything. The people who heard all this start adding fire and throwing stones at her to knock out her teeth. But the girl cries and regrets that she believed and followed her beliefs. She thinks that if she is destined for a new life after death, she wants to be like the wind, independent of anyone, and live for herself. According to Pachan, this is the curse of the Baldec Empire. According to him, everything the witch said came true, and now no one wants to be a part of the imperial family. According to him, this is a story from a generation past, and many people remember it. The girl also realizes that all the girl's words have come true. She realizes that in the Empire, all those who possess magic are executed as witches, and it's all because of the curse. The girl realizes that she should be careful not to be noticed that she also has magic, and she tells Pachan that she will change and come. The guy tells her to put on his clothes. Already in the stables, the girl who works realizes that the emperor possessed by the curse is terrible. But if she becomes a servant of the emperor and receives 100 cranes a week, she can save enough to buy herself out of slavery and go to Sursum in a year. She realizes that thanks to this money she can pay off all the debts of her parents, and after getting out of slavery she will be free. But the girl is still afraid and thinks about the fact that they will not call her a murderer for nothing. Yes, and in addition, they can serve for free. When the girl comes out of the stables, she hears a sharp smell of blood. She doesn't understand why the smell of blood is so strong, and standing there with a surprised face, she doesn't understand what's going on. At this moment, one of the maids runs into the room of the lady of the maid of honor. The lady asks her what is wrong, but she says that she was told that His Majesty has arrived at the palace. The lady is very surprised because they said that he will arrive only in 3 days, but immediately asks the girl where he is now. The girl says that when he came to the imperial palace and the order of knights, he said that he would go to the training ground alone. At this time, in front of the girl stands a man whose chest is bloody. He asks the girl who she is. Because the girl didn't answer him right away, he put a sword to her throat. This guy's asking her why she's hanging around like a rat. The guy again asks the girl who she is, and behind his back we can notice a dead horse lying in its own blood. The guy again asks the girl a question, but she looks at him and doesn't realize who he is. Her first thought is that this guy is an evil spirit looking at the fallen horse. She thinks he's an evil killer spirit. The guy again starts insisting that the girl answer him and tell him who she is. Finally, the protagonist starts saying that she is not here and she is here by chance. Hearing her words, the guy smiles a little. Obviously, he doesn't believe that the girl is here by pure chance. He says that's a predictable answer and takes the sword away from the girl's throat while she wonders about it. Suddenly, the girl turns around and realizes that she has to run. She starts to run and thinks that she has never seen an evil spirit with such a bright aura. She runs away because she thinks he might slaughter her like a horse, while the guy chases the girl. But she sees a rake in front of her. She grabs this rake and turns to the guy and says if he makes another move, she'll smash his head in. The girl looks very scared, which is natural. After she saw the man who killed the horse, as she stares at her stalker, she thinks about how long this crazy spirit will haunt her, and ponders how to get rid of it, while the guy stares at her emotionlessly. Looking at the girl, he realizes that she is tiny and is a heretic slave. The girl is still very frightened and clutches a rake in her hands to defend herself. Looking at the girl, the guy starts smiling. She gets even more frightened and thinks that this guy is crazy. She gets up the courage to ask him why he killed an innocent horse, because they are imperial horses. But the guy looking at her says that he gave the war horse a glorious death. The girl is surprised at this answer and does not understand what kind of demagoguery this guy is making here. She is like asking in her head from the guy if he wants to say that it was the horse that asked him to kill it with honor. Looking at the angry guy, she thinks it's obvious that this crazy spirit could kill a man. She starts swinging her rake at him, telling him to stop talking nonsense and disappear. But after the girl tries to hit the guy, he still dodges the girl's rake without emotion. He looks like he's not even scared of being attacked by the girl. A young man catches the rake he was attacked with, and the girl is very much frightened by this fact. She tries to somehow snatch the rake from his hands, but she does not succeed. Suddenly, the guy with one hand lifts the girl in the air, and even more frightened, she looks at him and is surprised by this fact. According to the girl, he is definitely not a human being, because he lifted her with one hand. The guy tells the girl that his horse, walking on the battlefield, ate poisonous mushrooms in the forest. Because of this, horse lay paralyzed with foam from the mouth at death, according to him. At the Imperial War, horse even death should be honorable. The girl is very much surprised by the guy's words. Hearing about poisonous mushrooms and the battlefield, she thinks that this guy may be an Imperial knight. Looking at him, she is surprised that the owner of such an aura is a human being. Suddenly, from the side, the Pachan sees everything happening. He drops the firewood from his hands and starts running towards the girl in surprise, asking what's going on here, while the knight throws the girl away with the rake. After the girl hugged Pachan, he noticed that this guy is an Imperial knight. At this time, the frightened girl who hugs the guy does not understand how even Pachan saw it. The girl realizes that for swinging the rake at the Imperial knight can be beheaded. At this time, the knight approaches them, but the girl realizes that she cannot die here, takes the earth in her hands. She tells her friend to run with her while she throws the earth she picked up in the knight's face. So they were able to immobilize the knight for a short time. After they break away from the pursuer, Pachan says that they escaped from the knight. He realized it because the armor had an imperial pattern on it. The girl is very surprised by it. She's very upset and doesn't understand why she didn't see it because she originally thought it was an evil spirit. She says it was dark and she couldn't see. And after all, they're not the only two slaves in the emperor's family. The girl suggests to her companion to keep quiet about it like dead mice. The guy in turn is not sure that they can do it. He asks the girl what would happen if this man was the emperor, because he is also blonde. The girl is sure that it is not so, because according to her, she heard that woman say that the emperor will arrive only in 3 days. And besides, she asks her friend if he were the emperor, would he hang around the board like a ghost? The next day, His Majesty the Emperor is met in the palace. People point at the emperor. They are surprised to see him, for he looks not at all as they expected. The girl looks very surprised too. As she looks at the emperor, she realizes that this guy is the same man she met that night and attacked with her rake. She remembers the moment when the emperor killed the horse and how she threw earth in his face, looking right at him. The girl thinks it just can't be. It is night outside, and the girl's hands are tied by a Tolstoy thread behind her back. She addresses His Majesty the Emperor. Evidently, the Emperor has both recognized and ordered to bring to him the... Looking down at the girl, the Emperor says he didn't catch that big slippery rat. By rat, he means the girl. Looking at her, he wonders who she is and who paid her. The action shifts to some time before, the girl dressed in her maid's clothes. She thought it was the best disguise, so the Emperor couldn't find her. She wonders why His Majesty went back to the castle. She thinks it must be because he felt threatened. The girls wonder how many years have passed since the Emperor died and the Chancellor became regent, all because there is no other acting ruler in the Baldec Empire except Chancellor Albert. In her opinion, the Emperor is not distinguished by kindness. She realizes that sometime she will have to play along, because soon in the Empire will blow bloody winds. The girl decides not to pay attention to all these factors, because it does not matter to her. The action moves to the stable, which is also the slave's bedroom. There's a girl with a plate full of food, goes to the place where they sleep. Opening the door, the joyful girl tells the Pachan that she has come, and asks him to guess what she has brought. She says that today she was lucky and helped the court servants. But suddenly the girl is a little surprised, then, looking around the room, sees that her friend is not there. She asks you, where did he go? After all, the work in the stables has long since ended. Suddenly the girl is grabbed by someone. After that, she found herself in front of the Emperor, answering the question of who paid her. She, knowing that there was no such thing, asks the Emperor what he is talking about and what payment can be talked about. The Emperor asks the girl if Albert sent her here to spy. The girl is surprised at this and wonders if she is talking about Chancellor Albert or not. The girl, who is still incredibly frightened, says it's not true. After all, how could a lowlife like her meet with the Chancellor himself? The Emperor doesn't believe her. He asks a rhetorical question that the girl supposedly happened to be where he was, saw what he was doing and was able to slip away. He mentions that according to rumors in the imperial palace, Albert has many eyes and ears. According to the Emperor, he even went as far as heretic slaves. The girl tries to justify herself somehow, and says that it did not even occur to her at that moment that this young man is the Emperor. She justifies her actions by the fact that he so brutally killed the horses. The Emperor is very surprised to hear this from the girl. He asks the girl if he is correct that she is accusing him of being a murderer. The girl wonders how he knows she really thinks that. But to save her life, she says he is not a murderer. She says that a lowly slave dare not comprehend the deep meaning of giving an honorable death to a horse. According to her, she should not have disrespected him. The Emperor is not impressed by the girl's speech. He notices that the Chancellor not only bribed her, but the Emperor wonders if the Chancellor did anything that wasn't devious. Guy realizes that the Chancellor is one of those who can benefit even from a cobblestone. In Guy's opinion, Chancellor Albert has always been like that. The Emperor thinks about his horse. We learn that it was a war horse, which was time-tested, perfectly trained, and which even in the war did not cause trouble. But it was worth it to come to the palace, and suddenly, the horse ate poisonous mushrooms. According to the Emperor, this coincidence is no coincidence. He realizes that Albert would like him to fall off his horse and die. It becomes obvious that there is a strained relationship between the Emperor and the Chancellor. Standing in front of the girl, he says that she is lying. It is clear that the rumors about His Majesty were false, for if he were such a cruel man, he would have killed the girl without leaving a trace of her. But not believing the girl, he says they'll check her testimony against the guy who worked with her that night. So one of his men orders the guy she was working with to be brought in. The girl looks over and sees that the guy is a Pachan, which was rather expected. One of the Emperor's subjects is leading the guy, and when he sees Sharon, he immediately changes his face and becomes more cheerful. At the same time, the guy is not brought to the Emperor, but is led in another direction. The Pachan himself also does not understand where he is led, but there is heard the roar of a lion, from which the protagonist goes into shock. Still kneeling before the Emperor, he tells her that now only her honesty depends on whether her brother will live or become a snack for the lion. While the Emperor calls the protagonist a boy, The girl is surprised to hear that her brother's life depends on her honesty, but even more surprised that the emperor called her a boy. She realizes that the emperor thinks she is a boy. The girl begins to assess her appearance. She is wearing dirt and some wear men's clothes and smells horse dung. She wonders if that is why she has been mistaken for a palace servant. At this time, a lion comes out in front of the girl's brother. A rake is thrown to him for protection. Obviously a reference to the fact that the girl tried to attack the emperor using a rake. Pachan is incredibly surprised that he was given a rake as a weapon for defense. The emperor who is watching all this is thinking that they had the nerve to mock the emperor and get away with it, and for that they will now be punished in such an unconventional way. The boy takes the rake in his hands, hoping that with it he will be able to defend himself against the lion. The girl, also noticing everything that is happening, crawls on her knees closer to the emperor and asks to be punished because according to Chang is not guilty. But the emperor, who is adamant that they will decide if he's guilty or not, he looks quite collected and handsome. You can see he's not going to change his mind. At this time, the guy is attacked by a scary lion. The guy with ships in his hands tries to defend himself against it, and the girl in turn says that she will prove that the guy is innocent. When he hears that the girl is going to prove their innocence to him, he immediately orders his lion to stop. The lion, who was already attacking the guy, immediately stopped, and the Pachan is incredibly surprised that the lion is tamed by the emperor. The surprised emperor asks the girl how she is going to prove their innocence. Then the girl starts to tell that she and her father are slaves who were brought from Sursum. The emperor asks what next, but the girl realizes that she needs to think about how she's going to prove it. She goes on to tell the emperor that they've been living for 3 years feeding horses and cleaning manure. According to the girl, they're not even allowed to go outside the allowed area. The girl also mentions that they just saw the emperor yesterday, and what kind of courtiers could they be? The emperor again says he heard nothing unusual. He finds it ironic that how diverse were her predecessors. The girl realizes there was nothing like it. She thinks about everything that's going on, and realizes that even if she didn't swing the rake at His Majesty, even if she didn't run away, it doesn't matter because she's going to get Pochan killed. She forces herself to think of a way to solve the problem and tells the emperor to give them a chance and they'll show who they are. The girl realizes that she will have to focus for an answer, with the emperor telling her that if she doesn't take responsibility, her brother will pass away quickly. Still kneeling in front of the emperor, the girl can't think of an answer. It makes you think even more, with the girl straining very hard trying to think of something brother. She remembers the most terrifying dreams she woke up from. She realizes that the man she dreamed about so many times is the emperor. She realizes it's a palpable sense of dread. Predicts today, she asks the emperor if he can put away his sword today when it gets dark. According to the girl today, she will make sure that he is no longer afraid of the night. The emperor is very surprised by these words of the girl and declares that he is not afraid of the night. We learn that the emperor is afraid of the night, like a child who has lost his mother. The girl confidently declares that she knows a method that will make him look forward to the night. According to her, it will inflame his blood and give him ecstasies of delight. Both the emperor and his subordinate are very surprised by the girl's words. The guy standing behind the emperor's back is very surprised. According to him, the boy is absolutely right, but the emperor did not let him finish and told him to shut up now. Night has fallen outside at this time, and the emperor wipes his sword, which is always with him. You see that someone has entered the room. He asks the protagonist, who he thinks is a boy, whether she has come. This time the girl dressed more feminine. She wore a beautiful dress to make the emperor realize that she is not a boy, but a girl. She declares that she has come. Sitting in his room, the emperor wonders how the protagonist could have known about his fear. He remembers her question about whether he could put the sword away. When it gets dark, the emperor realizes that he didn't tell anyone about it, but the information still leaked to the girl. Suddenly, the action moves to another room. His subject enters and informs him that according to their spies, there is no sign of contact between the opposition and the slaves. According to the subordinate, there is no more news. But he also reports that these slaves are not brothers. The emperor is surprised and asks who they are then, and then the guy reports that he first thought it was a cocky guy, but it turned out to be a woman. The emperor thinks it's nonsense and says that someone must have just seen him here and started the rumor. The submissive says it's not true and asks the emperor to listen. But he says he's had enough because he understands it as some kind of insult. He asks his subject if he wants to say that he has a problem with his eyesight. He also says that he needs to check something, so he orders the guy to go. Colin says that right after that interrogation he went to the restroom, but the emperor won't even listen to him and says he's right. But after Colin asks him to listen again, the emperor slaps him on the head and says he's the only one who's right. Colin immediately changes his face. The emperor notices this and asks what he wants to say, but the guy says he doesn't want to say anything. He just wants to learn the methods of that boy. He emphasizes the word boy to show his rightness again. The action moves again to the emperor's bedroom, where he is surprised to see the girl. He asks her who she is, and then the protagonist tells him that her name is Sharon. According to her, she is a slave that promised to save him from the darkness. The emperor realizes that his asshole subject was right after all, and the man the emperor thought was a boy turned out to be a girl. The emperor asks what she is talking about and what darkness she is going to save him from. The girl says that among the natives of Sursum, who can see magic and control it, according to her, she was born with this gift and saw him wandering in the darkness. Realizing what the girl had said, she immediately begins to justify herself and fearfully says that she is not a witch. The emperor's eyes changed, and he began to think. He tells the girl he doesn't care if she's a witch or not. He tells the girl to try to put him to sleep, and then she can save her life, while the emperor keeps his sword in his hands. The girl said she understood his orders, and she realized she finally had a chance to survive. She decides she'll start with the first thing she sees. Suddenly, the girl starts looking for something in his bedside table. The emperor tells the girl that she is too brazenly rummaging through his bedroom. He looks surprised at the girl's behavior. Suddenly, the girl pulls out a bag. She apologizes to Julian and tells him that she thought there was something wrong. It turns out that the bag contains a statue that is wrapped in barbed wire. She tells the emperor that the limbs are tied with a rope. She says that the obvious intention is to get on the nerves of the object of the curse, to slowly but surely kill him. The smug emperor who sits on the bed says that this is not clear to an infant. The emperor asks himself how the chancellor dared to enter his bedroom. The emperor is quite annoyed by the chancellor's behavior and says he will pay for it. The girl asks the emperor not to worry, and grabbing the candle says that she will burn the statue. The emperor is even more excited. He is surprised that the girl decided to just take it and burn it. But the girl says that black magic is reversed when it is discovered. According to her, when a spell is cast, the effect is only on the target. But now the purpose of the spell will change. Now that the girl says that the caster's body will be burned, she does burn the statue while the emperor watches nervously. The girl is surprised that only she came to his room and immediately found the object of black magic, while the guy looks at her and declares that her skills impress him. The girl thinks that things are going well because they have already solved one problem, while the nice girl looks at the emperor and says that it's late at night and he needs to sleep. The emperor lay down in his bed and covered himself with a blanket, but his sword is still with him, a hint of distrust. On his part, it is as if the girl does not even pay attention to this. She asks him if he has ever played word games, and the emperor is very surprised to hear about some game, and asks the girl, "Is this another method?" The girl smiles and tells the emperor to try playing this game. The emperor tells the girl that risking her life for a joke is a very brave thing to do. The girl hears about it a little worried, and the emperor realizes that he needs to relax his strained nerves. The girl starts the game, but the emperor just looks at her and does not answer. Then, the girl asks him if he will play with her, or if she will play alone. The emperor also calls his word. It is conspiracy. The girl is surprised by this word. They continue to play words. The girl behind him notices him using some weird words, and when he calls the word lynching, the girl realizes he's calling two bloodthirsty words. Finally, the girl stumps him and calls out the word like-minded. The emperor doesn't know what to say, but the girl says he has plenty of time, so let him think about his next move. After a while, the emperor finally falls asleep. The girl sees this and realizes that this is the moment when she can use her magic. Her palm seems to start glowing with some incomprehensible blue color. She places her palm over the emperor's face, and then her magic seems to envelop his entire head. The girl realizes that after casting the spell, he will sleep peacefully. The emperor begins to sleep peacefully, and the girl sits down on a chair and realizes that she has done her task. She is glad that she has succeeded, but realizes that magic is not all-powerful after all. The girl is very happy that now they are not fed to the lion, and Pachan will finally be released tomorrow. She begins to fall asleep with thoughts of her brother. Finally, the girl calms down and realizes that tomorrow they will return safe and sound. The next day, the emperor wakes up. He thinks he fell asleep during a word game. Looking around, the guy realizes that the world is beautiful. When he slept, he realizes that he didn't even have any nightmares. Suddenly, he looks away and sees a girl asleep in a chair. He remembers her saying that she knows a method that will make him look forward to the night, and that will wet his blood and give him ecstasy and delight. The guy realizes that her method really helped. Suddenly, he hovered right over her and called the word he couldn't remember yesterday. The girl is very surprised that he towered over her. She doesn't even fully understand what he's talking about at first. But the guy says it's a word that starts with the letter he needed. He tells the girl that the word just occurred to him. The guy looks at the wonderful girl and says that she has proved her abilities to him. In return for her work, she will receive some kind of reward. The girl looks at the emperor in surprise. The girl is very surprised by the emperor's words. She is surprised that they will be rewarded, because the emperor will keep them alive and reward them. In addition, the girl realizes that a good dream works wonders. As if turning to her brother, she says that she has succeeded. She wonders what to ask the emperor. The first thing that comes to mind is to feed her goodies until she bursts. But then she realizes that this is kind of silly, and that she should ask to be freed from slavery. But the emperor tells the girl that from now on she will look after him at night. As a special maid, the girl is even more surprised by this statement. She thinks she was just trying to assuage his doubts, but in the end she's earned more trust than she intended. She looks like she's not happy with the emperor's idea at all. But still, she realizes that she is the emperor's special maid. She will live in much better conditions than it was before. But she reflects also on her status. The girl imagines that she will sit in his room with shackles on her legs. Noticing that the girl is thinking about his proposal, the guy touches her forehead with his fingers and notices that she is thinking, according to him, he is still here and still waiting for an answer. The girl in turn realizes that this is an offer she cannot refuse. She bows to His Majesty and says she is but an insignificant heretic slave, and so she asks His Majesty how she can become his personal maid. But the emperor asks her if it's hard to make someone like her maid. But the girl says that the secret council is not quiet. The emperor is very surprised at what the girl knows. She remembers that while she was pretending to be a servant in the palace to hide from the emperor, 2 guys behind her back were talking about it. If their words are to be believed, the emperor's return scared Chancellor Albert a bit. They hope the emperor has a dozen more issues to deal with on the battlefield. She says Chancellor Albert may refuse to appoint her to such a post. The emperor is a bit surprised by her words, and as if to mock the girl, asks her if he understood correctly that she wants him to get the approval of the secret council. For him, it is a bit amusing. The girl is a little frightened by this answer, and a little bowing her head to the emperor, thinking about what she said wrong. She realizes that if it is revealed that it was she who broke the curse, the opposition will throw her out. The emperor says that someone is sorceress in the emperor's bedroom, which is supposed to be inviolable, but the girl looking at him thinks he knows what it means. She thinks that the emperor who has lost his authority cannot protect a slave. That's why she needs a little power to protect herself. Yulian looks at the girl, still waiting for a response to his proposal. Looking at him, she is surprised that he is calm. After all, before the girl thought he would be angry. She informs the emperor that as His Majesty's special maid, she must block all sorcery and secretly investigate a lot of things. The slave status will hinder this, in the girl's opinion. Hearing her words, the emperor asks if he is right that his maid should not be a slave. The girl herself realizes that this is very impudent. But now she has a chance while the emperor still needs her. In her opinion, it's a chance not to spend the rest of her life as a slave. She says that the emperor got it right, because a despicable slave has no place with the emperor, who is the son and rulers of the empire. The guy looks at the girl and starts laughing. Seeing this girl is incredibly startled and surprised that the emperor started laughing during such an important conversation. Taking a step towards the girl, he says that means slaves have no place near him. The son and the rulers of the empire, leaning over the girl with an incredible smile. The guy says that so be it. The girl herself looks a little scared. The girl is even more frightened, and she thinks about the fact that they were talking normally. She doesn't understand why his voice is so threatening. Even sweat drips down her face. The action moves to the emperor's office. Colin bursts into his office and, turning to His Majesty, asks if the night went well. The guy looks pleased. The emperor says he didn't expect the guy to barge in on him panting like a dog, but Colin says dogs have a great nose for accidents. So he asks the emperor to tell him about last night. The guy promises he won't tell anyone else about it. After all, they've been friends for so long. The emperor says that for the first time in a long time, he has been able to sleep well. Colin looks directly at the emperor and notices that his face is radiant. He is not interested in how the girl brightened his night. The emperor asks his subject if he knew at once that the trap was a woman. He notices that even though they have been friends for a long time, Colin has played a trick on him. Colin says it was kind of a surprise because he wanted to see if she was hiding something else, so he went to the bathroom and saw the girl there. The emperor asks the guy if he has seen the naked body of his slave girl. Colin is a bit surprised that the emperor poses the girl as his slave, but emphasizes that the servants covered her while he was washing, but the silhouette was definitely female. After thinking about his friend's words for a while, the emperor turns to him and asks him to stop talking and get out of here. He orders him to go to the training ground. Colin asks if he can tell him more about the emperor, but the emperor asks if they have put their weapons in order. Colin tells him that he has ordered the soldiers to take care of it. The emperor suddenly becomes nervous. He asks his friend not to leave it to the servants or soldiers, but to look and see for himself, to check the integrity of not only the arrow and armor, but also the condition of training and combat equipment. And he also wants Colin to check if the new horses are trained correctly. Colin does not understand why his friend is in a bad mood, but at the same time he understands that it is necessary to run away from here. He tells the emperor that he understands everything and is on his way to do his errands. Suddenly, the emperor tells his friend to strip and examine all the soldiers. Colin turns around, not being shocked, emphasizes that it is some kind of disgusting thing, and wonders why he would do such an abomination. The emperor asks his friend to take a good look at everything from head to toe, whether the toenails are rotting from fungus, and whether there is no wound in the side of the arrow, whether they have not earned venereal diseases in the long night guard. According to the emperor, is such a long caretaker who takes care of the soldiers. Colin, hearing such a strange order, asks the emperor if he has done something wrong. The emperor says that the boy has done nothing wrong, and he only wants Colin as a lookout not to miss a scratch on his soldier's body. Colin is even more surprised by this answer. He thinks it's because he told the emperor that he saw the naked body of his slave girl. He realizes that the #1 rule in the service of the lecherous emperor is that whoever he owns must be first. Colin, realizing what the problem is and why he is being forced to do such an unusual job, bows to the emperor and says that his eyes have seen nothing, while the woman who runs the house informs the girl that she looks very well. The other 2 maids are whispering among themselves. One of them wonders if the girl looks vulgar, for she looks like a foreign aristocrat. Mistress notes that only one person in the world can determine the nature of the girl. According to her, it is necessary to name the stones on the ground with pearls, and in the same hour, they will become pearls. The same thing is happening to her right now. That's why the lady asks the protagonist to show loyalty to Julian. After a certain amount of time, the emperor is informed that the maid has arrived. The emperor is also surprised to see the girl wearing such an outfit. He realizes that she is dressed in a sursum outfit. Carelessly, he tells the girl to go to her room. Then she comes to him. At this time, the guy has a piece of paper in his hand. After the girl comes closer to the emperor, he tells her that he has in his hands the proof of her innocence. Looking at all this, the girl realizes that these sheets are her documents of slavery. The guy starts burning them, just like the girl did when she got the statue she found in his room, the night he got some sleep. The girl realizes that her slavery papers have been burned, and the emperor himself says she's no longer a despicable slave, so now she can be near him. The girl is so happy that now she will not be a slave that she even cried. She realizes that now she will be able to officially earn money and return to her native Sursum. Not having time to recover from such happy news, the emperor immediately gives the girl another sheet of paper and says that it is a contract. The girl is very much surprised at this, but the guy tells her that this contract is valid until the healing of the incurable disease and the appearance of the empress. The girl looks at this contract and thinks that it is complete madness because the conditions that are described there will not happen soon. If at all, she asks herself, what is the difference between this document and the document of slavery? The emperor tells the girl to put the seal at the bottom to make their treaty valid and effective. The girl at this time looks at the emperor with surprise. The girl tries to get out of signing the contract and tells the emperor that she doesn't have a seal, who is a little perplexed by the answer. But then he smilingly grasps the knife and tells the girl that her hand will be enough. He also grabs the girl's hand and begins to pull her to him while she is bewildered and terrified at what is happening. She asks His Majesty to stop, but he does not listen to her and pulls the girl even harder to himself. The girl's face does not fall frightened. She realizes that now will agree to a bondage contract. But because the emperor overdid it and pulled the girl too hard against him, she fell right on top of him. The girl thinks she's lying on something hard. She doesn't realize she's lying on His Majesty yet. After she opens her eyes, the girl is very much surprised and wonders if she is lying on top of the emperor right now. The girl is obviously very much frightened by this. She immediately bounces away from the emperor and starts begging for his forgiveness. Obviously, she expects some bad consequences after such an incident. She is frightened by the emperor's observed reaction, but the emperor doesn't answer her but just watches the girl's reaction. We can see that he is very embarrassed and his face is even a little red from this. The emperor turns his head, and the girl watching him does not understand why he is so much embarrassed by this. She does not understand why it happens like this, because he was married twice, although the girl realizes that both of his wives died early. Looking at the emperor, she thinks that he is not the same as he was when he chopped the horse with his sword. Being like an evil spirit, the girl watches him. The emperor is still a little confused. They both do not say a word. Seeing all this, the girl thinks she's a little embarrassed and tells the emperor that if that's what it takes, she's ready to stamp or whatever it takes. And the emperor tells her to just sit next to him. The girl mentions that according to the maid of honor, the servants who will serve His Majesty personally will be entitled to 100 crowns a week. Saying these words, the protagonist looks very happy because she counts on the money. But the emperor informs the girl that her salary will be 1,000 cranes a month. The girl is very surprised by such words from the emperor. She realizes that even the maid of honor does not get so much. Seeing her surprise, the emperor asks what is going on. He thinks that he offered the girl too small payment for her work. The girl, who is still very happy about this salary from the emperor, says that it is not a little and immediately asks where she should put the seal. But the emperor, who looks at the girl meaningfully, tells her to sign it in blood. The girl is very much surprised that she will have to sign this document with blood. But the emperor says that far to the east, there is a custom to drink alcohol with a drop of blood. According to the emperor, it secures the union in which the servant is loyal to the master. Also, he keeps telling the girl about this custom. According to him, after him the Lord trusts his men and protects them, they are going to drink alcohol with a drop of blood. The girl thinks about his words. She realizes that now he is offering something like a blood oath. Then the girl decides to ask the emperor why he will pay her so much money. She is still surprised at the amount of her salary. But the emperor emphasizes that he will pay her this money for her loyalty and abilities. He emphasizes that even if she is a slave, but with outstanding abilities, they must be recognized and fairly evaluated, which he has now done. He says he's doing it because he's emperor of the Baldec Empire, not an alley crook, but the girl thinks she knew it was for a reason. She seems a little upset, but she thinks that the emperor recognizes her worth. She thinks that maybe God sent her that dream about the emperor. Signing her signature in blood on the contract, she realizes that this contract is the second chapter of her life, where she will no longer be a slave, but will be the Emperor's personal maid and spellcaster. After the protagonist has signed the contract, the Emperor shows her another sheet and says that it is a kind of guarantee, or in other words, the Emperor calls it a pledge. We find out that this piece of paper is a document of slavery of Pachan. The girl is very surprised that this document will be a collateral. On her face, it is impossible to hide the surprise. The Emperor says that if the girl betrays him or fails in her duties, while their treaty is in force, he will kill this slave right in front of her eyes. The girl looks very surprised at this. She did not expect that the life of her own brother would be used as a guarantee of loyalty to the Emperor. Looking at the joyful Emperor, the girl thinks that he is the last bastard. But after all, the contract has been signed and she will have to follow it without any complaints, and at the same time realizing that for her mistakes, her brother may be killed. A month has passed since she signed the contract. It's night and full moon outside, and the girl is in the Emperor's bedroom thinking, how much longer can she live like this? We learn that for a month, the protagonist has been diligently studying etiquette and guarding the Emperor's sleep. But even despite all her efforts, she still for some reason cannot see her brother, who is right in front of her nose. We learn that when he was almost eaten by the lion was the last time they saw each other. The girl tried to sneak out of the palace to see her brother, but the maid of honor found out. She emphasizes that the girl was told not to leave His Majesty's palace and not to take a step until she gets permission. She tells the girl to concentrate on His Majesty. The girl realizes that what the maid of honor says is true, and at the same moment she goes to the Emperor to put him to sleep, while the girl is very worried and misses her brother. She decides that she will personally ask His Majesty's permission to see her brother, all because the girl realizes that it is not so difficult to agree with him. The girl knocks on the Emperor's door, but immediately she hears some strange and inexplicable noise from his bedroom. She immediately opens the door to his room spontaneously and abruptly. After she opened the door to his room, the girl sees that there is something going on there, and the Emperor himself is holding his head as if it hurts him very much. The young Emperor is sitting on one knee, holding his head and letting out terrible cries of pain. The girl sees all this and thinks that perhaps their Emperor has fallen under some other spell. Seeing all this, the protagonist runs up to the Emperor, but he, after looking at her, and as if being stupefied by something, immediately hits the girl with his fist. The protagonist has fallen to the floor and is frightened. In incomprehension, looks at the Emperor, At this moment, the young Emperor rises majestically above the girl, around his head as if there is some red barbed wire or something similar, which proves the effect of the spell on his mind. After the guy towered over her, she tried to bring him back to this world, and reminded him that it was her, and that she was not his enemy. The girl asks the Emperor to wake up, but her actions don't help him much. Evil looking at the girl, and still being under the influence of black magic, the guy immediately grabs the girl by the throat and begins to strangle her. The main character also did not expect this turn of events. She begins to choke. Well, cannot do anything about it because the forces of the Emperor and her forces are in no way equal. When she sees the Emperor's crazy look, the girl looks at him and realizes that he is not himself. She also understands where the rumor came from that the Emperor is a murderer. She thinks that all this is because of such attacks when he is possessed by black magic and makes him do some terrible things. Looking at the guy and already starting to suffocate, the girl realizes that it could be the wreath. She realizes that if she removes it, maybe the Emperor will return and become normal. But the protagonist realizes that she can't do anything because they have too great a difference in power. The Emperor still continues to strangle the girl. She realizes that before she loses consciousness, she must remove the unfortunate wreath from him. Because she can't reach his head, the girl decides to use her magic to free the Emperor from the charms. Suddenly, the girl's magic helped, and that unfortunate wreath disappeared from the Emperor's head. He came to his senses and finally let go of the girl, who almost suffocated. The Emperor looks exhausted after all this, and the girl is very happy that she was able to free him from the shackles of these charms. The Emperor looks at the girl, who is still lying on the ground, and sees the serious marks on her neck that resulted from his attempt to strangle her. Looking at Sharan, he realizes that he probably lost his temper again and did those horrible acts to the girl. He gently touches her as well. The Emperor realizes he's become so helpless again. He remembers that the last time he lost control, he swung his sword, but this time it was a little different. He realizes that now, because he lost control of himself, he almost killed his faithful assistant who has been helping him sleep well and feel good for so long. At this time, the girl thinks, is this what burning feels like? She feels a very strong pain in her chest and doesn't understand why she suddenly feels so much pain. She realizes that the Emperor feels a deep hatred that is tearing him from the inside. He also feels a sense of anger and betrayal. The girl was finally able to understand what his problem is. But she still doesn't understand who the hell is tormenting him so much. Who is burning his soul with sorrow every night in his dreams, because of which he is so much tormented. After the girl finally woke up, she saw the Emperor towering over her. He asked Sharon if she was awake. The girl answered him positively. She realizes that it was the Emperor's dream, and that he lived in such pain every night. That it was from this that he must have been afraid of the night for so long. The girl thinks it may be the spell of whoever left that cursed doll she burned earlier. The girl realizes that something has to be done about it. At the same time, she gets out of bed a little and apologizes to the Emperor. She said she was confused because she thought it was all about the cursed doll. The Emperor, who sits next to the bed, tells the girl that there is nothing wrong with it. He also mentions that if it were that easy, he wouldn't have left the palace. We learn that the Emperor has had such attacks of madness before. Then everyone felt sorry for him, realizing that he had another attack of madness. He was even prescribed some medicine. Then some man behind his back asked him if he saw blood there. That man asked the Emperor to listen to Albert's words. He told the young Emperor to obey. The girl thinks about the fact that now he can't control the disenfranchised boy, so that makes him such a helpless man in a fit of rage. The girl decides to ask the Emperor if this has happened to him before. She asks him if any empresses have died in this way. The Emperor looks at the girl and asks her why she needs to know and if she is afraid. The girl says she is afraid, of course, but she still needs to know. The guy proudly says he didn't kill the empresses, and we learn that he only saw them on their wedding day. But not even a month later, people are saying they were killed by the Emperor. The girl thinks about everything that is happening. She realizes that some strange force is making the Emperor lose his mind, and she wonders if Albert is behind all this. The Emperor asks the protagonist if she is afraid, why she does not run away. After all, he tried to kill her. The girl is very surprised by such a question from the Emperor. She emphasizes that she does not run away because she is his maid and spellcaster. The girl asks, the guy is sick, that they made a blood oath. The Emperor seems surprised to hear from the girl, but the girl also notes that he said that if she is a loyal servant, her master will trust and protect her. Obviously, she is implying trust and protection from the Emperor. According to the girl, this act is proof of her fidelity. The Emperor himself thinks that to hear such words, and even from a maid who has known her for only a month, is very unusual. While the Emperor thinks about the girl's words, the protagonist herself thinks about the fact that this will not do. She initially thought it strange that everything calmed down as soon as she got rid of only one cursed doll. She realizes that she didn't even have to look for that doll, because the Emperor can be controlled as it is. The girl thinks that it seems that this is the way they eliminated his entire entourage. She gets up from the bed and apologizes to the Emperor. The girl realizes that you can't break the spell every time, especially when it's already in effect, as she did today. The girl realizes that the Emperor is a weapon in the flesh, and it is very dangerous to expose him to sorcery. She is going somewhere. Suddenly she sees a room and realizes it's a maid's room. Seeing this, the girl declares to the Emperor that tonight she will be by his side forever. The Emperor is very surprised by her words, and asks if she will spend the whole night with him. The girl says it will be like that and she will stay in this room. The slightly disappointed Emperor asks the girl if he really scared her that much. The girl says that he did and that she was very lucky to be able to defend herself. But the Emperor tells her that in that case she shouldn't stay up all night with him, and he asks her to just help him sleep and go on as it was before. The girl is very surprised by the Emperor's words. She tells him that this will only be a half measure. She says she needs to protect him. The emperor is surprised that the girl says that she is going to protect him. It is obvious that the girl has touched his ego with her words, but she does not slow down, and says that it is a matter of sorcery, and it must be fought with sorcery too. The emperor is surprised by her words, and asks her if he's right that she's saying this after he strangled her, as if he finds it a little hard to believe that the girl is so devoted to him. But Sharon says she can defend herself, as she did today. The guy, obviously concerned for the girl's health, says that even if she could survive, it doesn't mean she can protect him. He asks her if she will be with him, even if he grabs the sword. The girl says that of course she will be with him, even at this moment. At this, she raises her voice a little. The emperor, as if not believing in her sincerity of words, tells her not to raise her voice, and insinuates that he does not believe her. The girl continues to convince the emperor to stay here by his side. She says she does know an effective way to help him. According to the girl, she and the emperor should become one. The emperor is very surprised by this statement from his maid. He does not understand what she means. But the girl raises her voice even more and begins to explain to the emperor that they must become one body and mind. With this statement, she leaves the young emperor speechless. The emperor is very much surprised that according to the girl, he and the girl should become one body and mind. The girl immediately comes closer to him and says that this is exactly so. Immediately she touches him, but the emperor seems to be frightened by this and tells the girl not to touch him. She was surprised at the reaction at first, but then it dawned on her, and she started to justify herself, saying that he was thinking of the wrong thing. The girl clarifies that she did not mean obscenity between a man and a woman. The emperor says that he understood, and she can go no further. The girl is still trying to understand what the emperor thought. She says that she is telling the truth, and clarifies that she would not even dare to think such dirty thoughts about the emperor. According to her, he is not even a man. The emperor is very surprised by the girl's words. He asks her what it means, but she says it means she's been talking about protection magic all this time. The guy says he didn't mean it. The girl thinks he's talking about obscenity and immediately changes her mind and says obscenity isn't such a dirty thought. But the guy tells her again that he didn't mean it. The girl doesn't understand what the emperor's question is, but he asks her, what does her saying that he's not even a man mean? The girl is surprised to hear such a question. She wonders if it's that important now. She also wonders if the former slave can't see the emperor as a man. She wonders how she can tell the emperor that without offending him. She tells him that he is not a man, but a ruler, and again calls him the true son of the Baldec Empire. The girl still managed to somehow explain her words without offending the emperor. He understands what the girl was talking about. She also remarks that he is the most beautiful, noble, dignified, and strong man of this world. According to her, he is incredible from head to toe. But at this point, the emperor interrupts her and remarks that the girl has a long tongue after all. He says that her words still sound quite strange. They sound like the girl needs a man of lower status and not the emperor. The girl says that's what she meant, while thinking about the fact that she has a Pei-chan. Dear viewers, at this point I was a little stumped because the whole story and I thought that the Pachan is her brother. And whether it is or not, I think we will be revealed next. The emperor, hearing the words of the protagonist that she wanted to say that, is a little surprised and tells the girl to forget the whole conversation. The girl immediately changes the topic of conversation and asks the emperor for permission to explain to him how the unity spell works. Apparently, she wants the emperor to better understand how she will protect him from the effects of black magic. Girl explains that he needs to smear his blood on a silk thread that has never been used before, and then tie it around his wrists and her ankles before going to sleep, making them thus one. The girl clarifies that it doesn't work immediately, but if she does it all the time, she will be able to take the magic directed at him. It becomes clear that the girl is ready to take part of the blow on herself. The girl emphasizes that this is the reason why they should always be near each other, and she also mentions that his maid's room is vacant anyway, so she can take it. The emperor thinks for a moment and asks the girl if her actions mean that she will change the target of the curse. The cheerful girl says that is exactly what it means, and she will take it upon herself, and then she can destroy it and heal herself at once. The emperor, again worried about Sharon's health, tells her that he doesn't know as much about magic as she does, but he thinks it could be dangerous for the girl. He says it's no joke, and it could be dangerous to carry the curse on yourself. The girl realizes this and thinks that sometimes these curses can be deadly, but since she has noticed that the emperor's curse is not life-threatening, she dares to take on such a heavy burden. According to the girl, this curse is more of a manipulation. She realizes that he still has no heir, and no one would dare to kill the only member of the imperial family. The girl asks the emperor if he can give her his fist. The emperor is puzzled but still holds out his fist to the girl. Then she also clenches her fist and asks the emperor to look at it. The girl says that as far as he can see, her fist is much less dangerous if it falls under someone else's control. The emperor again doesn't understand and looks at her in bewilderment. The girl also asks the emperor if he will save her life if she is in any great danger, but she emphasizes that this act will be exactly the same as the one she did today when she saved him. The emperor finally unclenches his fist and tells the girl that he has nothing to say to her, but asks her to reconsider and specifies that he doesn't want any sacrifices from her at all. The girl asks the emperor not to worry, but notices that he seems to be in a good mood and realizes that this is her chance to ask for a meeting with the Pachan. Immediately, the girl decides to ask the emperor if she can leave the palace for a while, emphasizing that she will not go far. She clarifies that she may not have time for another time because he knows that at night and during the day he is studying the rules of etiquette. The girl hopes very much that the emperor will allow her to go to see her father. The emperor tells the girl that she can go, but he puts one condition. She must not tell anyone that she used to be a slave. The girl does not understand what this condition is, but agrees to it. When she thinks that her companions already know that she was a slave, the girl immediately leaves in a hurry and tells the emperor that she will be back soon. The girl is very happy that she will finally be able to see her boyfriend. She even has a picture in her head of a young guy with his arms open as if waiting to cuddle with a girl, who, as the girl escapes from the palace, notices, and maid of honor, who comes to the emperor, does not remind him that, as she said tomorrow night, Chancellor Albert will arrange a banquet. According to her, at this banquet will be all the nobles of the Privy Council. And on this day, the maid of honor would like to introduce Lady Stuart to him. The emperor realizes that Stuart is Albert's last name. He asks the maid of honor if the chancellor has an unmarried daughter. The maid of honor answers his question and says that he may have another unmarried daughter, though there may be more than one if you look hard enough. She also mentions that his daughter doesn't have to be of his blood, which is normal for someone of such status. The maid of honor emphasizes that Lady Stuart joined the duchy 3 years ago and is now being trained by the empress. The emperor chuckles upon hearing this. He asks the woman, "Isn't it funny that as soon as the second empress was crowned, he immediately began preparing his daughter to replace her? But the woman says it would be strange to hand over the place of empress to another family." The emperor notes that, seeing as how his previous 2 marriages to the children of noble families have ended, no one else wants to get involved with him. The emperor realizes that now Chancellor Albert can easily put his daughter in a place no one else wants. If he succeeds, the emperor will be left in total isolation. The maid of honor says she doesn't think he can refuse Chancellor Albert's engagement, but the emperor says he won't do it to her. After all, the empress must be employed instead. And the emperor asks his subject to invite Sharon to tomorrow's banquet. The woman wonders if he wants to find another use for her. But the emperor says that Albert doesn't even try to hide his plan, and doesn't ask the woman if he shouldn't respond in kind. The emperor says he can't wait to see Albert's face at tomorrow's banquet. The emperor also asks the woman if she has solved the problem with her entourage, at which point the woman says that all the court slaves she knows have been expelled from the palace, but Albert has been frequenting the palace for the last 3 years. According to the woman, he knew very few people personally, but there's no guarantee, and the chancellor may have already found out. The emperor says there's nothing wrong with that. He says it's enough for us to have enough courtiers at the banquet. The woman changes her face and looks very sly. She asks the emperor if he should not go to bed already and asks where Sharon is now, but the emperor says that the girl has gone outside the palace for a while. The woman says that she has gone to see the man, and says that she has asked the girl to be careful. The emperor is very surprised at these words, and asks if it is about the man. The woman says it's like that and it's about the man Sharon can't live without. Dear friends, and if you want to see the continuation of this story, and to find out whether the maid of honor has some cunning plan and whether the main characters of this story will be together, then be sure to subscribe to the channel. Give a like under this video, and do not forget that when you get 4,000 views or 5,000 likes, I will definitely start to do for you the second part.